Hi, for those of you who've joined in early, the session is about to begin in a few minutes. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask you for a quick little favor. This is more like the usual sound check that we do. If my audio is clear and if you can see my screen as well, you can make use of the chat window to let me know the same. This is more like a quick sound check and video check. If you can hear me loud and clear and if you can see my screen, alrighty, I've already started getting responses. Alright, thank you for the confirmation. Perfect. So we will be starting off in a few minutes. Hi all, a very good afternoon. Thank you for having taken the time to have joined me in today's webinar. This is Jay, product expert from the AD Solutions team of ManageEngine. So, first things first, before we get into today's webinar, there are certain things that I'll want you to have clarity on. For those of you who want to try out the product or try out the features as I explained today, you got to be making use of this specific instance that I'm pointing to. It's going to be demo.admanagerplus.com. I'm going to drop that URL on the chat. 3, 2, 1, and there you go. So that's going to be the URL that you should be accessing for the cloud instance that we have hosted. It's demo.admanagerplus.com. So in today's demonstration, there are going to be aspects of the administrative side and the technician side as well. So the product has to be used from the administrator point of view when you need to configure it, and in case of the workflow module where we'll be making requests or help desk requests, you got to make sure that you log in as the technician. So make sure that you try out both of these logins. So the instance again is going to be demo.admanagerplus.com. All right, so in case you have any questions coming up, feel free to make use of the chat window to pop your questions right at me. I'll try and take as many questions as possible during the course of webinar. Maybe if I miss out on one or two, don't worry at all. I'll have them answered towards the end of the session. And as regards to the recording of today's presentation, you can leave me a message with your email ID towards the end of the webinar again, and we'll have the video sent over to you. Okay, so we are all set, and today's topic is going to be on simplifying the process of employee onboarding and offboarding from the help desk point of view. So that's going to be the agenda or the schedule for the day. All right, so let's take this situation. It's Tuesday morning. The first thing that you receive is a mail from the HR asking you to onboard 15 new joinees. All right, is that a good way to start a day? Not really. Yes, onboarding users or onboarding new joinees into your organization does not end with you just creating accounts for them in Active Directory. It goes a lot beyond that. Given the array of applications organizations are starting to use, as enterprises are getting bigger, there are so many other applications that have to be provisioned for that specific new joinee before he could actually start getting to work. Applications like Google Apps or Office 365, be it an Exchange mailbox or Skype for Business, so many other applications go hand in hand with your Active Directory user right at the time of user creation. So, what could probably take you around half a day's time can be simplified to just happen within a matter of minutes. So, that is the idea of today's webinar. We're going to try and understand as to how to make use of different features in AD Manager Plus to simplify the entire onboarding process. And yes, like you read it right, we are also going to be talking about the offboarding process or deprovisioning process. And the agenda for today's session goes like this. So we'll start off by understanding how the workflow module in AD Manager Plus is going to help you, streamline your user onboarding process. What am I talking about right here? So ideally, it's your HR making a service request and you get to process the service request after having spoken to the corresponding line manager, and then the line manager gets back to you with the details for the new joinee's AD attributes, and the conversation goes to and fro. Instead, right at the very beginning, right at the time of user creation request by the HR, we are going to give the HR a simple self-explanatory dashboard from where the HR can make an intelligent request. And all you got to do is just look into the request that has details of that specific new joinee or a few of the new joiners already pre-populated, because the application works based on templates. So pretty simple. All you got to do is check into that specific request, check for the authenticity of the request, check if all the data is already pre-filled right by the HR, and just approve it or reject it. It gets that simple. So we are trying to streamline the entire onboarding process right at the very start. We are trying to cut down a lot of conversations that keep happening between multiple stakeholders right here. All right, so that's the first step towards, simplifying onboarding. We'll go further to talk about how 360-degree user provisioning can be of great help. What does 360-degree provisioning mean? So when I talk about user onboarding through AD Manager Plus, we are talking about having accounts provisioned simultaneously across different platforms. Like I already mentioned, you have users being provisioned in Active Directory. Make sure that you do it just once from one single window, and automatically have users provisioned across other platforms of your choice. Google Apps, Office 365, and so on. So we are trying to reduce the cumulative onboarding time by taking advantage of 360-degree user provisioning. So that's the second important topic that we'll be discussing today. Going further, we're going to be talking about something really exciting. Here, we are trying to bring the entire idea of service request management, or your ITSM, into your identity and access management. So we are trying to create a system where your ITSM and IAM work in close proximity, go hand in hand, thereby empowering your help desk to do the exact task that could ideally require them to toggle between multiple windows. They need not do that, instead can perform all those critical Active Directory tasks right from their identity, right from their ITSM dashboard. What am I talking about right here? You have Service Desk Plus, or you have ServiceNow, or any other ITSM tool, your ticketing system. Right from the very same console, we are going to empower you with plugins that are going to let you onboard users, offboard them, and a lot more. So we're talking about a tight integration. So this specific topic is going to be the way forward. That's how we are planning to go on and do the product development as well. So that is a critical topic. And all these right here, the workflow, the 360-degree user provisioning, and ITSM, can also be accompanied by something that happens day in, day out. So we've got databases with user details, be it your Oracle database or your MSQL. We can have automations that run on the background and import all the data from the database that's already configured. So could it get any easier? So we're talking about a complete 360-degree system that will help you onboard, or in fact, for that matter, streamline your onboarding, irrespective of which technology, irrespective of which process that you use to onboard your users. It can be a workflow process, it can be an integration with your ITSM, current ITSM tool, or for that matter, it can be an integration with your database as well. So we're talking about a complete streamlined onboarding process. Likewise, it can't get any simpler. The deprovisioning bit of it, having your users removed from your Active Directory right after they leave your organizations. So that can be completely automated. And in fact, it is a lot more easier to keep track of the users in this specific approach. You need not necessarily go on user after user, check if their accounts are deprovisioned properly. Instead, set up an automation that's going to wipe up the entire detail of that specific user, and it's also going to do based on the logic that you set. So today's session is going to be a very important session for those of you who are having a tough time managing your user onboarding and offboarding. We'll be talking about all the topics that I've listed right here, starting with workflow, 360-degree provisioning, integration with IAM, automatic user creation, and yes, automatic deprovisioning as well. So that's going to be the agenda for today's session. So that being said, let's start off by understanding what are the disadvantages of using the native tools, or what are the disadvantages of doing it through your Active Directory users and computers console. All right, the first and the most big disadvantage that every administrator faces is having users provisioned in bulk. Yes, PowerShell scripts are powerful, hands down, no doubt about it. But then, given the complexity of writing a PowerShell script, so what do we have right here? We have a sample PowerShell script for user creation. Does this look anywhere close to being simple? Not at all. So we've got multiple attributes for every single user object that has to be created. And God forbid if something goes wrong, if I missed out that specific, syntax, or if I get something wrong, the whole process is going to be stopped. And the worst part is you're not also going to get notified as to what went wrong. So instead of taking the hard way or taking the hard route, doing it through PowerShell or through your native Active Directory users and console, there are a lot of disadvantages. The most critical one being the difficulty or the complexity involved and the time that it takes to do it manually, one attribute after the other for one user after the other. So there are ideally no chance that it's just going to be one employee coming into your organization in a single day. You are going to be bombarded with user creation requests. And likewise, like I told you during the introduction, it's not just Active Directory that we are talking about. There are going to be multiple consoles, starting with Active Directory, your Office 365, Exchange, and Google Apps, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to make sure that we simplify, streamline, and have all of it aligned to happen in one single go. That is the idea. So how do we go on? Starting with the user onboarding process, the first logic for the day is doing user onboarding from your HR console, or we call it the business workflow. Pretty simple and straightforward. Let me go on and explain the logic behind user creation through workflow, and then switch over to the product and show you how it actually works. All right, so we'll start off by setting a HR as a requester. The HR will have access to the AD Manager dashboard. From that dashboard, the HR can make a user creation request. So what does the help desk get to view? The help desk gets a ticket with details of that specific new user who's got to be created, with all the attributes of the new user already specified. That is the idea. That's how we simplify the entire process. And then all that the help desk has to do is just look into the request, either approve it or reject it, and it gets incorporated in Active Directory. And for every action by the help desk, there is a notification that's triggered and sent back to the requester, in this case, the HR. So for a change, instead of the help desk or the administrators taking all the pain, doing all the hard work, we are trying to carefully delegate or intelligently delegate a bit of work to the actual stakeholders involved. It could be your HR, it could be a line manager, it could be anybody who's involved. Give them the bit of work that you've always been doing. It's okay, it's perfectly all right. And the best part is the chances of errors creeping in get reduced drastically because there are no iterative or multiple conversations happening between different people. It's a straight line and nothing could possibly go wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to AD Manager to show you how it works. And before that, I'm going to show you how the dashboard would look like. All right. So it's the HR making the request for user onboarding. The approver could look into the request and choose to execute it or reject it, or by which I mean to say either approve it or reject it. And then it gets incorporated in Active Directory. So this is the straight flow as to how it works. And this is ideally how a request would look like. You know, for the HR, we are trying to create a dashboard, like I told you, and the dashboard is going to look more or less like this. The dashboard is going to be customizable again. The HR can enter the attributes of the user for who he wants an account to be created. The HR, he or she wants to create an account. So that can be done from this dashboard. And this dashboard, like I told you, again, is customizable. I'm switching back to the AD Manager, getting into my instance. All right, so what do we have right here? We've got the AD Manager Plus application. we are talking about the workflow module. The workflow module basically requires two fundamental attributes. The first one being the role, and the second one being the person who's requesting. In our example for onboarding, it's going to be the HR who's making the request for user onboarding. All right. And here, the role that is to be assigned to the HR can be configured. So you want your HR to have the ability to provision user accounts. Yes, that can be given. You want them to modify user accounts. Again, that can be given. So pretty simple. I'm getting into the requester roles. This is where you configure what role or what actions for your HR that he or she can make a request for. So requester roles, it can be anybody in your organization. All right, so here I can choose to either create a new role, or in this case, I'm going to just go ahead and show you a role that I already created. So HR requester. In this specific role, we can see the HR's got the provision to create users in single, in bulk, and also perform a modification for the user by a template. What are we talking about right here? So it's a normal day in day out scenario. There's a user moving from the sales department to the marketing department. In that case, again, it's going to be the HR who's making the request. So we are trying to give the HR the provision to alter or make, or to be precise, make request to alter the AD attributes based on templates that we've already created. So for all of this to work, be it creation or modification or any other activities that are listed right here, one fundamental requirement is going to be the templates. Do not worry at all if it is a little overwhelming. No problem, I can have a separate video sent over for user creation templates. We've got a separate module for that. For those of you who are new to user creation templates, no problem, just drop me a message. So user creation templates, giving you a quick overview, are going to be the fundamental backbone of this whole process. So as the administrator, you can go on and configure the templates for different departments, the IT department, the marketing, the sales, and all of that, and assign these templates to your HR or give access for your HR for these templates. So the next time when your HR makes a request, it's not just going to be a plain text request that says John has to be onboarded and John is a part of the IT department or the sales department. Instead, the request will be detailed. It will have every attribute for John corresponding to the sales department already pre-populated. So the description is filled out, the organization unit is filled out, and every other attribute is going to be filled out, be it the account attributes, things like your membership, all of that is going to be filled out because you have already created templates that the HR can make use of. All right. So for the template module, don't worry, I can have a video sent. Just drop me a message. All right. So we are again getting back to workflow and talking about requester roles. We just saw how templates are important. So it's the HR who's going to make a request. All right. So the requester role, the first step is all done. The next one is going to be configuring the requester. So in this case, I can choose to add anybody from my organization. Any Active Directory user who's a part of my organization can be added as a requester to this module. So that's the best part about the application. It can be your HR, it can be your line manager. And as a matter of fact, there are no restrictions on the number of users who you can go on and add as requesters. That's completely free, absolutely free. So we've got the HR requester added. So HR requester is mapped to a specific role, the role that I showed you a while back. All right. So how do you do that? Pretty simple. Select add requester, select the required user from the list that's available. Here, all users are listed. For those of you who want to do it in bulk, for those of you who want to delegate a requester role to an entire group, that can be done as well. I can quickly look up for the HR department and say just HR managers and say okay and grant the same role. So all HR managers will have the provision to make a request for user creation. So selecting that, and there's one more benefit of this specific workflow module where you can restrict the organizational unit within which they can operate. Say for example, you have your HR or you're headquartered at New York. So no problem, you can let your HR for New York just have access to employees or creation or requests within that specific OU. That is a great advantage of this workflow module. So you can have restrictions set as well. So giving you a quick recap before I switch and show you how the HR console will look like. We are talking about Active Directory user onboarding simplified through workflow. Here we just understood as to how a HR requester can be given access to a dashboard by means of a requester role. All right, we just saw that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch or pretend to be the HR, log in as the HR from AD Manager and show you how to make a request. Switching back to AD Manager, signing out, logging in as the HR requester. All right, so HR requester, what's my password? Yes, password. So I'm going to go ahead and pretend to be the HR requester. So what do we see right here? The entire application looks completely different. And why is that? Because this requester is just configured with one role, and that role had the operations like single user creation in bulk, and modification alone mapped to the role. And like you can see, it does not say AD management, it just says request. So the first task for the day is the HR making a request for user creation, single user creation. So it's going to be a request dashboard. We're talking about new user onboarding. Let's say Stone Cold Steve Austin. All right. So Stone is a part needs to be a part of, okay, the IT department. All right, so that's how the request would be, and all that the HR's got to do is fill out the subject description for the request, go on and actually do some work. So here it's going to be Stone Cold and it's going to be Austin. All right, pretty simple. So what do we see right here? The template is automatically populating details for critical attributes. So there are certain things that I'll want my HR to mandatorily fill out and not miss out. So Stone Cold is going to be a part of which department again? It's going to be the IT department. So I'm selecting IT. All right, that's selected. And yes, the title for Steve Austin is going to be, let's say, uh, he is going to be a network and systems guy. All right, Stone Cold being a network and systems guy. That's done. So that's set. The request is going to go on and reach the administrator when I hit create request. But then, like I told you, I want my administrator or the help desk to do minimum work. So there are two things that you can do. You can ensure that your HR does not meddle with your Active Directory, just makes the basic request and fills out the requirement right here, or you can give your HR access to any of the templates that are right here. So the moment when I hit IT department, the whole layout will get modified as per my requirement and it's going to get pre-filled. So I did not select IT department before. All right. So when I select IT department, this is going to go off. So the first thing that you'll have to do is, if you're planning to give your HR access, they've got to go on and select the required department or required template before they actually filling out the form. So I'm going to go ahead and hit IT department. Don't worry, I'll just fill it out quickly for you. I'm going to say IT department and hit OK. So all of that is filled out already. So the subject is going to be Stone Cold IT. So it's already filled out, Stone Cold Steve Austin. The information right here, the description very clearly automatically says information technology. The OU or the organization unit is also selected right. All right. And the password is filled out. The membership, the group membership is also mapped rightly. Did the HR actually get into any of these or do any of these? Not at all. All that the HR had to do was select the user creation template that you as the administrator had already pre-created. It can't get any simpler. So from the contacts tab, we are also able to see that the title is filled out, description is filled out, and in fact, for that matter, the manager attribute is mapped as well. So likewise, any of these attributes that are a part of the user creation templates can be customized, can be pre-specified as per your requirement as per that specific department. So some of you might be wondering if these templates are just department specific. Not at all. You can have templates created for roles as well. Roles, by which I mean to say, you have a manager role, you can create a template for a specific manager role as well. That's completely up to you. So let's say there's a new journey and you have a template for trainees. You can select trainees and hit OK. So the templates can be customized as per your requirement beforehand, and in this case it's just going to be the IT department getting into the accounts tab to check if everything is all right. The HR is going to go ahead and create a request, and the request is forwarded. What does it say? User creation request sent successfully. All right, so the user name is filled out, the password attribute is also filled out from the template, and if you can notice, the right AD attributes for that employee are already specified because of the template. So pretty simply, the HR made an intelligent request for user creation in just few seconds. All that he had to do was set the right template and fill out the basic attributes, and everything else magically populated, and the request has been sent as well. So the HR can also view the request that he had sent through the all requests module just to check if the request is approved or rejected. So there's one request right here the HR had created a while back, an account for Albert Einstein. Yes, that was approved, and Albert Einstein is already a part of the system. So likewise, let's get into AD Manager as the administrator to check how the request from the HR would look like. Signing out, logging in back as the administrator. All right. So we're talking about the workflow module, the next bit of the workflow module. The workflow request was created. Now it can be either the help desk or the administrator receiving the request. So I'm going to go ahead and see what request I've received. I've received a user creation request from the HR. That's pretty clear from the request module right here. Like you can see, there are multiple other requests as well. In this case, I'm just going to operate on this. So I have a request for a new user creation. I can get into the object and see if everything is right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tweak it a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few attributes, alter a few attributes. That is completely under the discretion of the IT administrator before he or she approves the request. This can be done. So I've viewed the request, I've checked for its authenticity, I've made a few alterations to the request as well, and then I can either choose to approve it or reject it. In this case, I'm going to go ahead, be nice to my HR, and approve the request. So the request has been successfully updated and the request says closed. So what does this mean? When I get into the request history, it very clearly says it was requested by the HR and the AD manager admin approved the request. Let's see if Stone Cold is a part of our Active Directory right now. So Stone, yes. So Stone Cold Steve Austin has now become a part of our Active Directory system. And how was this possible? That was because the HR had very clearly made a simple user creation request, one single request, and the help desk, all that the help desk had to do was just approve the request, and like a bam, the user is into your system. All right, so this is the workflow module for user onboarding. Now, you might be having this question in your mind. The first thing that I told you was the drawback of your native Active Directory not being having the ability to have users created in bulk. So can your HR make requests for bulk user creation? Yes, that again is supported. Pretty simple. Your HR requester can choose to log in. All right. Just a quick minute. Sorry about that. The HR requester logs in. So there's a provision for bulk user creation. Hitting on bulk user creation, you'll have the ability to import a simple CSV file. I'm going to show you how a simple CSV file would look like. So this is exactly how a CSV file would look. All you have to do, or all your HR has to do, is to go on and key in just the basic attributes, the given name, which is the first name, the last name, and the template name. So if John has to be onboarded, John, his second name, and the department. And when the HR imports all of this, all the users are going to get populated right here, and in one click the HR can make requests for bulk user creation with this simple CSV file. So the best part is the CSV file is easy to make, and your HR necessarily need not strain even in selecting the templates manually for every single user, and that as well can be mapped from the CSV itself. All right, so that's on bulk user creation. An extra tip for modification, pretty simple. Now let's take your HR, wants to apply for a modification for one of the users, and in this case, it's Aaron. Aaron is going to get moved from a specific department to a different department. So here, Aaron is already a part of the human resource department. Given the fact that Aaron had good interest in marketing, the organization has decided to move or give him a promotion. In that case, you can go on and select the top executives template that's already created, a modification template, hitting OK, and you can see that there are certain modifications that are made to this account. So this is just an example. You can go on and create templates for modification as well as per your requirement. Let's say sales, I can go on and hit sales, and the details are going to get changed as per my requirement. So it's important that you configure the templates right. Modification is also going to be just a single step process. Let's quickly check how it'll look. When the right template is selected, you can go on and have modifications made as per your requirement. So pretty simple modification. Hit on the right user, the HR can go on, select create a modification request by selecting the template and going on to create that request. All right, getting back into AD Manager Plus, what did we just discuss? We saw how the business workflow module works. We saw how a request from the HR for user creation was not just a plain text request, but then was an intelligent request with all the attributes pre-filled. And all that I had to do was approve the request after my modifications. And yes, the user was onboarded. And there's a provision for bulk user creation through workflow as well. So we've discussed enough about workflow. Going further, you might also be wondering if it's going to be possible for the help desk or the administrators to do all of that I was talking about all by themselves. Yes, again, that's going to be possible. I'm at the admin's dashboard. If I have an organization structure where the admin does everything, no problem. I can go on and do the same. So I have provisions for single user creation, bulk user creation, and in fact, I have user creation templates at my hand, all department specified user modification templates as well, all departments or requirements specified or pre-filled. All right, so that is again possible for the administrator to do all of it all by himself straight. Perfect. So as a matter of fact, I've been getting questions from a lot of people asking if the HR requester module is free for AD Manager Plus. Yes, it's absolutely free. You can have how many ever number of users added to your Active Directory Manager Plus or AD Manager Plus as requesters. So that gives you a lot of advantages. Now that you've asked me that questions, few of you already, the workflow module, when you create all of your users as requesters or have them onboarded as requesters by adding them, all right, they're going to get access to perform a lot of AD management tasks, by which I mean to say they can make requests for all those that are listed right here, not just user creation. All right, if you have your line managers who want to alter the permissions of folders for their end users, that can be done as well. So the module is very useful. So workflow is going to be that specific feature, and requester roles are absolutely free. You can have unlimited number of users added to your AD Manager Plus as requesters. I hope that answers your question, John. Perfect. So moving further, we are going to be talking about the integrations. So now that we just saw how workflow could simplify user onboarding, we are talking about a complete full-on workflow software, which is your ITSM tool, all right, getting the ability to actually perform a AD management action an AD management action from right within your actual console or from right within your help desk tool. It can be Service Desk Plus, it can be ServiceNow. So we are going on and supporting a lot of other ITSM tools shortly. So watch out our release notes and watch out our roadmap, and you'll get to see what other help desk tools are being supported shortly. So at this point in time, we are supporting creation, deletion, unlock, disable, enable, and reset passwords as well. And for ServiceNow, there is an additional feature. We are also supporting group membership modification. So I'm going to quickly switch to Service Desk Plus for those of you who use Service Desk Plus. So there's a service request for user creation right here. All right, the requester is Aaron. Getting to the user creation module, I'm able to see that there's a request for user creation. All I got to do is get into the actions module, and right after the integration between AD manager and service desk happens, all these actions that are listed right here are going to be a part of your actions console form. In ServiceNow, it's going to be the form or the incident form from where you can use the form context menu to perform any of the same actions. I'm just restricting myself or sticking to service desk for explanation's sake. Here we just have a request from my end user. In this case, let's say Aaron was the HR for user creation. So pretty simply, all that I have to do is get into Service Desk Plus, check for the corresponding task, select the task, and get going with user provisioning. That is that simple. So we're talking about a system. It's also applicable for ServiceNow. For those of you who are using ServiceNow, I'm going to show you where to find the Service Desk Plus or where to find the AD Manager Plus plugin. Getting into the ServiceNow store, just look up for AD Manager Plus, and there you go. So we've got the AD Manager Plus plugin. So upon installation of the AD Manager Plus plugin, you will be able to perform actions like user creation, deletion, disabling, enabling, reset password, unlock, and yes, of course, giving you a sneak peek, the next release for ServiceNow is also getting group membership modification. Likewise, the same applies for Service Desk Plus as well. So getting into the working or the background behind this integration. All right, I'll get back to this in a while. Database integration. So getting back to the ITSM integration, pretty simple. You have all your requesters in your organization mapped to your ITSM tool already. Now that requesters and AD Manager Plus is also completely free, the best part is right when your requester, say for example in this case a logged out user, makes a request, it gets forwarded through your ITSM tool. And since your ITSM tool is going to have AD Manager Plus plugin, the Active Directory change that you want to perform, which you would ideally perform by switching to another application, say AD users in computers console or your actual Active Directory, you can save trouble by not going anywhere and performing that specific task right from your console, like I showed you. Like from your console, when you get a request, you can go on and perform the required tasks. So just select the required task and go on performing that action, and it gets incorporated in your Active Directory like cakewalk. So that's the idea behind having the tools integrated for your identity access management. The next one that we'd want to know is the database integration. So how is it going to be of help? Many organizations, it's either going to be Oracle or it's going to be MySQL or MSSQL. So the product proactively supports all of these databases. What it does is when you set automations, all right, when you create the automations for user onboarding with the input or the reference point set as the database, the objects are going to get imported to your Active Directory through AD Manager Plus, and their corresponding attributes are going to be filled out. User provisioning is going to happen in bulk, and they're going to be in Active Directory, and your end user can obviously log on. So I'm going to go ahead and start explaining as to how automation works so that you can understand the database integrations or database onboarding process a lot better. So there are certain things that you can probably look out for if you are thinking about automation or thinking about incorporating automation. So these are the basic signs that actually tell you that your organization might need AD automation immediately. And in this case, we're talking about two of the most important day-to-day AD actions that we perform, one being user onboarding and the second obvious being user deprovisioning. All right, so you will know that you need automation when there are a lot of new joiners in your organization and the waiting time for them is long. So before that new joiner can actually get into production, he or she has got to wait like one whole day because his accounts across platforms are not provisioned. That's a great sign that you'll have to look out if you are thinking about evaluating automation. Going further, your existing Active Directory has a lot of mistakes. That is inevitable. All of us have been through this. Yes, it's a big problem. And the one that I need not even give you much explanation on, inactive users, they are a big pain. They are the biggest source of internal security breaches. So, in order to make sure that your organization is a lot secure, inactive users have to be off your grid. And if you have a lot of inactive users, that means it's time that you automate. And likewise, you would not definitely want your ex-employees to have backdoor accesses to any of your resources. So making sure that their accounts are deprovisioned clean, deprovisioned completely, every attribute associated with them is removed. That's the only way to ensure that there's no backdoor access. So if you are facing any of these problems, all right, the first thing that you'll have to do is start evaluating AD automation. So who would not want to automate everything that's possible? So that's what we're talking about. In this case, it's just going to be onboarding and offboarding that I'll be explaining. When it comes to onboarding users automatically, what are we supposed to watch out for? What are we supposed to understand? So now that we've already gotten familiar with how Active Directory Manager Plus works, how your new joinees get imported through a simple CSV file, automation onboarding is going to be a piece of cake for you to understand. I'm going to switch back to the product, get into the automations module, and show you what exactly when I mean by user automation. All right. Perfect. So we are here at the user automation module. This module right here is going to be your gateway to have your users provisioned automatically. Here, I'm talking about a 360-degree user automation that's already configured. It says the automation is going to happen daily at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's automatically going to look up for users from a CSV file that I've got set in a share path like here. So what does this automation process going to help me with? It's going to import users from the automation module. The user automation module is set. It says create users. It's going to be a 360-degree user provisioning across different platforms, and you can go on to choose to select the source. In this case, it says a specific folder on my desktop for new joinees. Let me quickly look up as to what's there. So it says automated user provisioning. And here I have a simple CSV file with just the basic details, and all that your HR's got to do for this automation module to work is not even make a request, but simply go on to add a new user who's got to be onboarded to the list that's already existing. Let's say the new user is going to be Arnold. All right. And let's say the department is going to be marketing. Pretty simple. The HR's got to do is just select this specific CSV file that is mapped to this automation, fill out the first name and last name, all right, and add the corresponding template that's got to be mapped to this user provisioning. So now you might be having a doubt. Is this going to be repetitive? Not at all. All those values that get appended to the CSV file are the only ones that are going to be picked up by this automation module that is running on the background. So every time when the automation runs as per the schedule right at the morning that you've created, the users are going to be pulled up from the CSV file that you just had your HR fill out. So the HR, instead of making a request, all he's got to do, all he or she's got to do is just fill out this CSV file with the required details, and the automation module that I'm talking about, user automation with creation set as policy, and data source selected as CSV, is going to go on to create users in my Active Directory. All right, there are certain things that I want you to note right here. The automation cannot just be set for a CSV. Instead, you want to simplify that as well. You already have a database. You can select the required database, perform necessary configurations on the background, and get your users onboarded automatically right when there's an entry for a new user in your Oracle DB or your MS SQL DB. So you can go on and completely automate user provisioning. All right. So there are other things that can be automated as well. What more can be automated? So we just saw how a CSV file the HR had to fill out. Simple. The product goes on to fetch details of the user from the CSV file and creates accounts for the user across platforms because templates are applied. The ones that I was discussing about Office 365, Exchange, Google Apps, all of that are listed. So simplified user onboarding or automated user onboarding through this module that we just saw, automation, AD automation, user automation, all I had to do was just pick user automation. The task is to create users. I've selected that. In this case, I can also choose the template from the list of available templates. I'm going with 360-degree user provisioning. I'm selecting the input to be my HR database, the Oracle DB. That's selected. I'm going on and configuring. In my organization, employees just joined on the first day of the week, so I'm saying weekly, Monday, right at the start of the day, all right, right at the start of the day, somewhere like 10:30. So we start a little late, so 10:30, and when I hit update, the automation is going to get saved, all right. So here I'll have to go on and configure the DB. So that is done. Getting back to the automations module, you're able to see that there are a lot of other automations configured as well. So any Active Directory management action that you can literally think of, almost all of them can be automated. Things as critical as privileged access management can be performed through the automation module. So just-in-time access, that can be done as well. The next important one that we had on our agenda for discussion was user deprovisioning. All right. So user creation, we just saw that. The next one is user deprovisioning. So when would you want to automatically clean up when you have a lot of stale accounts in your organization? So inactive users are going to be one of the biggest costs for your Active Directory security breach. It's pretty simple. The security of your organization is only as strong as its weakest link, which is your users. Obviously, they are the weakest link. So, and we not want the accounts to be compromised. In that case, we'll go on and improve security by removing them. And also, please do note, we're talking about effective license management. So, right during the time of deprovisioning, accounts associated with that specific user object on Office 365 or Google Apps can be deleted or deprovisioned or quarantined as per your requirement. Even Exchange mailboxes can be dealt with that way. So we're talking about an automated process. In this case, what's the background of it? So AD Manager Plus runs its automation module for deprovisioning. It looks for the users who've been inactive for a specific number of days. So let's take the case of inactive users. Say, for example, 180 days. It disables them, moves them to a quarantine OU, deletes them after the said number of days. Say, for example, 30 days. Post that, it deletes it with a notification sent over to you. So you can choose to either approve it or delete it, or if that's not the case, you can completely automate it as well. So Active Directory, Office 365, Exchange, all of that cleaned up just so that there are no inactive users or stale accounts or backdoor entries in your organization. So that's how user offboarding works. This is the background of it. You can go on and create custom logics as to what should happen after what, which action has to happen after what, because deprovisioning is not as simple as onboarding. All right, there are multiple things that you'll have to keep track of. You have to also ensure that if need be, you as the administrator should have control for an automation going further. You can go on and implement a business workflow for automation as well, and see if the automation is running right as per your requirement. If in case you do not want an automation to run or you want to stop, you can do that as well, because you're going to get notified through business workflow if you enable that. And then after your acceptance, the automation is going to get further progressing into action. All right, so I'm going to switch back. We are talking about offboarding users automatically. In this case, we call it Active Directory cleanup. All right, we call it Active Directory cleanup. So it is for inactive users, and this per se requires a logic. And what's that logic? We call it the deprovisioning policy. You can create your own automation policies. You can custom code automation policies and have rules or logics set based on your requirement and make the application perform tasks as per your requirement. So this automation module is for your requirement, for your purpose. It can be configured to do almost anything. In this case, the deprovisioning policy is set for user automation. The instant tasks that I've configured is I want the users who are inactive to be moved to a quarantined OU, and I also want to remove group membership for all of those users. As a best practice, I advise people to always choose clear all existing group membership. So that's one good way of ensuring that there's no security issue. So right after this happens, successive tasks after 2 weeks, I make my automation module to disable those users and then delete their mailboxes as well. And finally, after a month's time of notice, after having discussed with the concerned teams, the automation will go on and delete the users. So this is the buffer time that you can buy for yourself. So during every single step, since the notification profiles are going to work on the background, you are going to get notified as to what's the status on that specific inactive account or inactive user who's going through this automation deprovisioning. And if need be, if you do not want this to be completely automated and you want a bit of intervention right there, you want to check if it can go on or not, that's where you need business workflow. So we just saw how a logic for automation looks like, where users get moved, removed after a set time span, can be disabled after a few more days, they can be deleted. That's how a logic would look like. You can custom code the logic. And when you want to actually go on and that task to perform, you need to create a task, all right? And that task is for cleanup, again, a user automation based on the policy that I just showed you. It was the deprovisioning policy, the multi-step policy. You remember, right? The one was for deprovisioning. I've selected that. And here comes the logical bit of the integration, intra-product integration that we're talking about. So we are going to go on and figure out the inactive users. And how is that? Are we supposed to manually select the inactive users so that the automation work? That defeats the whole purpose, right? So that's where we've intelligently integrated the inactive users report. So there are multiple reports that the product offers. Of that, inactive users is one. You can go on to select that user report as input, specify the criteria as well. Here in this case, I've selected a period of inactivity as 180 days. Go on to choose more filters that can be done. All of that is available. I'm keeping it simple. What happens is the policy, all right, finds out the users from a report that the product can generate. So that way it's a complete out and out automated deprovisioning that we're talking about. So the automation policy was configured with multiple steps, and for the input for those users who are supposed to be processed, that's when the report comes in handy, when you select the right report. And like you already know, you can go on and choose to run this automation as per your timeline. All right, you can choose it to be a monthly, weekly, or a daily operation. For deprovisioning, it's more or less monthly. So the last day of the month post business hours, you click on to update, and not forgetting the part where you get to choose to keep this as a completely automated process or a partially automated process by implementing business workflow. So what does this give you? If enabled, the generated request is subject to workflow. If some change has to be incorporated, you'll get notified just like you got a request in the workflow module, the one that the HR or the technician made. The product is going to make a request to you to ask if it can execute the task or not. So that's how we've structured. It can be completely automated or it can be partially automated, and the users are going to get removed. So here, what you can also do is you can go on and check the automation history as to when it last happened. You have a summary that says how many times it was executed, what was executed, and all of that. You can also choose to see user provisioning or any other activity that was already run. So here we're able to see that the user provisioning kept happening on that specific time span as mentioned, which is daily. So we've been discussing about simplifying user onboarding and offboarding. All right, so we've got more or less like 5 more minutes, and what I'm going to do is, just so that you understand what we've been discussing better, I'm going to give you a quick recap. We started off with the workflow module, where we saw how your HR has access to a simple console from where he can make a request for user provisioning. So we saw how that requests module looked, and how the administrator had to just approve or reject of the request from the HR. Just approve or reject the request. That's intelligent. All right, the next one was the part where we understood 360-degree user provisioning, where we saw how the application lets you provision users across platforms like Google Apps, Office 365, all of that with the user creation templates. The next bit was on the integration between your identity access management tool, which is the AD manager, and your ITSM tool. We took the example of Service Desk Plus and saw how your help desk can perform actual Active Directory management actions right from within any of those consoles: user creation, user deletion, password reset, any of that. And lastly, a while back, we were talking about user provisioning by importing data automatically from a CSV file or from a data base or from a database. It was Oracle or MS SQL. So we were talking about the automation module that required you to create a simple automation task that automatically onboarded users based on the inputs that were given to a simple CSV file. That is all. And finally, the last bit of today's session was on user deprovisioning, automated user deprovisioning. We were talking about how your Active Directory can be spick and span with inactive users automatically removed based on a policy that you configure, a simple deprovisioning policy that you configure to move them, remove them, disable them, and after 30 days completely delete them off your grid. And like I told you, the step that you'd not want to forget is the part where you get to customize that specific cleanup automation with or without business workflow. All right. So I've given you a quick overview as well. So today's session was on simplifying employee onboarding and offboarding for the help desk through AD Manager Plus. Thank you for being so patient. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. It was great presenting to you. For those of you who have further questions, we've been trying and taking as many questions during the course of the session. So for those of you who have more questions, no problem, just shoot the questions right at me and I'm going to go ahead and take all of those questions. Yes, thank you so much. Until next time, this is Jay signing off. You all have a nice day. So there are a lot of you who've asked for the video. No problem, that can be done. I've got your email IDs for those of you who've requested. Yes, we can go on and send over the copy of the recording. That's noted. There are a few questions that I'd want to take right now, so that everybody is benefited. There are questions regarding the Service Desk Plus integration. The Service Desk Plus integration is pretty simple and straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and show you how it looks. All right, for those of you who are interested. So based on the API integration that we perform from the admin tab in ServiceNow, if you get to integrations, the ME integrations, there is a separate module that lets you integrate your product with AD Manager Plus. All right. So in this case, you can go on and key in the server credentials for AD Manager Plus, get back to Active Directory Manager Plus, AD Manager Plus, check if the integration module is configured right at this end as well. All right, checking if that's configured. All right, that's successfully configured. So you can quickly look up for requests that you've received. In this case, we are talking about a user creation request, the one that I demonstrated or the one that I showed you during the presentation. Okay, so you can pretty quickly get into the requests module and check to perform any of the activities that are listed right here, something like creation or unlocking or any of those activities. And for those of you who are wondering if just the administrator who can perform, not really. Even the help desk can log in and perform the same task if the roles are rightly configured. So we're talking about a 360-degree integration again with all the basic Active Directory management actions like the ones that I've pointed out: creation, deletion, disable, reset, all of that tapped in, or all of that tapped in to Service Desk Plus. All right. If you have further questions, don't worry at all. You can always write your questions to me. My email ID is jay@manageengine.com. And if you have further questions, you can also contact our support. Would be more than happy to help you out. All right, I'm going to go on and drop my email ID on the chat to those of you who are, interested in asking me for the questions. This is going to be my email ID. All right, so you can feel free to contact me anytime. Taking more questions now. Question time. Okay, what else do we have? We have a question on user creation templates. All right, so Steven asks me to explain a little bit on the user creation templates. No problem. So AD Manager Plus for user creation fundamentally operates based on two important parameters. The first one is going to be the user creation templates. All right, AD management, user creation templates, and the next one is obviously going to be the input that you give into the template. So the template and the input together combines to have active directory actions incorporated. So here we're able to see that user creation template is pretty simple. Creating a new template, this layout is completely customizable. You can go on and choose to edit it as per your requirement, pre-specify certain values, delete certain values. You can do all of that. All right, so if we want to create a specific template for a role, let's say account manager, all right, account manager, I can go on, key in the relevant details already, fill out the description, key in the necessary container, say which department he's got to be a part of, which domain he's got to be a part of, which OU he or she's got to be a part of. All that can be done. So I can select account manager for the finance department. All right, I'm hitting OK and I'm saving that. Account manager role should always be mapped to these attributes. I can choose to pre-specify passwords. I can choose to work with any of the attributes related to password. In fact, for that matters, the templates are so powerful that they actually let you configure log on, log off hours as well. So group memberships can be modified as well. Let's say I want that user to be a part of all the finance related groups. I quickly look up for finance related groups, accounts group, finance groups, selected, said okay, going on further, selecting the required manager. That can be done as well. I'm going to look up for a finance user, quickly looking up, okay, I don't have any. Let me quickly settle with the users who are already available. Let's say Aaron is a finance user, select the required department. So making a template is pretty simple. What could ideally take you a lot of time for one specific user with the native active directory way of doing it could be a lot more simpler just because you have the right templates already configured and mapped. So the templates can go on and extend to active directory management in both terms, both in creation and in modification. I just showed you how modification creation templates work. In modification templates, you can again go specify other values as well. So there's one for attributes for a department to be populated. In fact, there's one that is dedicated for the logon hours right here through the template that was customized. So one that I showed you during the demonstration, the top executive template, it had attributes specified for that top executive as well. So top executives would require access to all top groups, right? So that can be configured. So the next time when you have a request for something like this, you necessarily need not double check or go on and cross verify every single time just so that you don't grant some excessive permission. Instead, you can do this when you're completely sure. When you do it one single time, you do it right and then apply it multiple other times. It's foolproof. That's what we're discussing about. So thank you for the question. We just discussed how the templates work. And 360, when I say 360-degree user provisioning, yes, Google Apps and Office 365 are also going to be provisioned simultaneously. The logos right here represent the very same. All right. So if you're wondering how to get that configured, from the admins tab, we've got Office 365 and G Suite accounts integrated through simple admin credentials for the corresponding applications. All right. So that was a question regarding your user creation templates and modification templates. Looking for more questions? Just a reminder, guys, for those of you who want a copy of the video, just give me your email address and we will go on and have this sorted out. As regards to password generation for users, I've got a question from Kevin asking me if random password generation is possible for user creation. Absolutely possible. I'm going to show you how. A minute right here. So the one that I'm pointing to right now is a very critical update in the product. It's about random password, and I should say, Kevin, we've just got lucky in this release, the release that had gone this month. We'd be able to perform user creation as well as any other action pertaining to password, actions that can be done with random passwords like the one that's shown here. So you want to reset passwords for your users automatically based on the time span that you set. You can also choose to have random passwords created. You want to create user accounts with random passwords, that can be perfectly done. So that comes with the latest build of AD Manager Plus. So that's exactly what I advise you guys. So go on and also keep a tab on the release notes for the features that have come up. For those of you who are interested on the timeline of the product, so for the new features that are going to be coming up in the product, the roadmap, all right, I'm going to go ahead and quickly share with you a link that will give you access to all those new features that are going to be coming up in AD Manager Plus. Just give me one quick moment. All right, so we're talking about AD Manager Plus and the latest features in it. So the question was regarding password management, the ability to automatically generate passwords or reset passwords or create them randomly. That is going to definitely be possible. So we are going through the Q&A session right now, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to find out the latest features that are going to be coming up or the roadmap for AD Manager Plus. So yes, we are here at the roadmap page, sharing that with you on chat right now. So for those of you who want to keep track of the roadmap, yes, there we are. So you'll be able to get hold of all the features that are there in the pipeline, the roadmap. You can go on and see the features that are in development as well, what is going to be supported in the future, what is under development, all of that there. Something that's pretty exciting, the one that always excites me, is the support for Azure. That is in pipeline. We are working towards that. Office 365 has seen a big facelift with the 6601 build. We've been working really hard towards, supporting a lot of cloud apps. Yes, so that is a big relief for a lot of you. So this is going to be the URL to find out what's new in AD Manager Plus and what's going to be supported in a while. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being so patient. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you for all your questions. If in case you have any further questions, shoot them right to me at j@manageengine.com. Thank you once again. This is Jay signing off. You all have a great day. Ta-da, bye-bye.